Covering in this video the absolute minimum for the Statistical Inference 2.9 Level 2 assessment. Right, the very first thing is to get your data that has been emailed to you. So in this particular case, I'll go here to my Outlook, Office 365 Outlook software here. Click on Statistical Inference Data, and then you can download whatever data it is. It could be the blockbuster data if that's what we're doing for the actual assessment. So you click on that, and then you've got to click on Download. And you can see it appears down here. It should be saved into your Downloads folder. Now, next step is to go to Google and type out New Zealand grapher, and should be the first one that comes up, New Zealand grapher, and you should end up with a page like this. And then what we need to do is go to Data and Open File, and then find that exact file inside your Downloads folder that you just downloaded. Now, I just downloaded that file which was about video games, and I should bring up the video games. Well, that's what you should be doing. If that's your assessment that you're doing, you should be bringing up and looking for that video games file that you just downloaded. Alright, now the actual example that I'm giving you is once again on kiwi birds and sharks. I've got two examples actually, kiwi birds and sharks, and they're a bit different from the longer version for merit and excellence that you've seen so far. Very, very short versions, absolute minimum, and I'll show you what to do with that, but I cannot go now and download, bring up the information on the video games. You should be doing that right now, finding your video file, video games information file. Should have CSV on the end of it, and you should double click on that right now. So I'm going to go into KiwiBird data instead, and once again you should have your video games data here, not the KiwiBird data. Giving you an example of what to do with that video games data, but I'm doing it, giving you an example using the KiwiBirds data myself. Right, so you're working with a different set of data. Okay, go to dot plot and box and whisker. Your first variable must be something that has a huge range of numbers. A huge range of numbers. It could be dollars, weight, height. It could be the number of sales of a particular item. Could be a used price, a retail price, anything like that that has a large, huge, much more than 10 different possibilities, a huge number of possibilities of values. Alright, so I could choose weight here, that would be one. There's a huge number of possible weights. You have 26.7, 28.9, 105.2, all kinds. Of be just thousands and thousands of possible weights. So that's one that I could choose for my first variable. You must choose something that has a whole lot of possibilities, not just 4 or 5 or 10. Alright, so I can't choose species or gender, it's no good, or even location. First variable in here, I've only got two options. You could have one that has dollars, for instance. Here we've got here kilograms or height, really. I've just got to choose one of those. So if I choose, say, height here, and second variable is one where there's limited number of options, say 10 or less different possibilities. Species only has two options, male or female. Oh, sorry, gender only has two options, male or female. Species in this case has three options. You've got these one here, giant kiwi or whatever it is, and then the North Island brown kiwi and another one over here. I'm not sure what they stand for, but there's only three different possibilities there. So that's the thing that you're going to choose in your second variable. Something that gives a few possibilities on your graph should come up like that. Okay, so I could choose gender here. Right, and so I've just got male and female. Next step is that you need to select four things on in this little thing in the middle here at the bottom, summaries, high box plot, informal CI, and CI limits. You must have all 4 of those. It is absolutely vital to have those things. Alright, if you don't have summaries, you won't have this red summary information which you need. You also need a high and box and whisker diagram, a high box plot along here. You need the informal confidence intervals, which is this blue area, and you need to be able to read off the informal confidence interval limits, like the where it starts and where it ends. This one here starts at 37 here, the very start of the blue area, and then it ends at the end of the blue area is 37.6. Alright, so we've got our data, everything we need there. Now what we need to do is go to sample. We need to get a sample. So go here to get a sample. You change simple random here to the same option that you chose for your variable number 2. So here I've chosen gender, so I must choose gender here. Alright, if you've actually got more than 2, in some cases you might have 5 or more of these here, so you need to just choose 2 of them. Don't fill in every single line here if you've got 5 options. Alright, so you're only comparing absolutely 2 different things. I only have 2 in front of me, so it makes it easy for me to choose a 2. But if you have 5, you could take the first 2 if you wanted to, or you could take the last 2, or any 2 that you like, and just write in the number 30, or you could choose 50 of each if you wanted to. So 30, I could choose, actually make this 50 if we want, doesn't matter, really matter, or 40 of each, around about that number there. So let's say we choose 50 of each, of female and male. Once again, do not go 50, 50, 50, 50, 50 all the way down, just 2 of them. 2 of them, that's all you need to compare. So we click on sample, and we've got female versus male, and you should have just 2 options here. Just this one versus that one. Only 2 box and whisker diagrams is all we need, and you could get marked wrong if you have more than 2. We're meant to be comparing just 2 things. Alright. Okay, next step would be to change your title, graph title, and we could say, call this, just use your variable number 1 there to start with height, and for Kiwi bird gender. Alright, so we've mentioned height, we've mentioned the other variable as well, which is gender there. So if we click then on update graph, and we're showing all of the heights for the females and the males, in other words, for both genders there, the heights. Alright, so then what you've got to do is you've got to right click, or if you've got an Apple computer, you'll have to do a snapshot or something there and grab the image, copy image, and then you've got to go to your Word document and paste it in there. Now I've already got the whole thing ready and done, so I'm just going to go across to my Word document and carry on with what I was doing. Alright, so we've got over here the ready-made document here about kiwi bird height, and this is the absolute minimum, as I've written here, for achieved. You cannot miss a single thing out, right down to the bare minimum. If you leave out even one little thing, then that's not enough. Alright, so what you must have is a question to begin with. I wonder if, or you can sometimes you can begin with is the median height, right? I wonder if, or is. Either way it's okay. Anyway, I've been teaching I wonder if. I wonder if the median, now you must mention the word median, that is absolutely vital, and then your first variable height, and then your first option. Remember we had females versus males, so the first one is female kiwi birds is greater. Now you need to have that word greater in there, greater than the median, and then once again you go back to your first variable again, height, and then you look at your second option, male kiwi birds. And then it is absolutely vital to have this information at the end of your question. In the Department of Conservation data on kiwi birds collected from 2013 to 2016. Now, your one will not be that, but you've got to write up something about where the population comes from. In your assessment, if you look for perhaps the word population and find out information about what it says about where the population comes from. Population, a larger set of data from where you're getting your samples from. So in your assessment, look around for the word population and where it talks about the population or where it comes from. You have to also include maybe the country if that's there, and also the years that are given. Once again, it should be around where it talks about the population in your assessment information that was given to you. I gave out a little booklet thing there, a 4-page booklet thing, and right inside there you would see the information that you need, and that's all you need it for really. You don't need to use that booklet anymore after that. But that's vital information. Okay, so another thing here, next step is we're using simple random sampling. Now you'll be ticked off whether you've got that written down, that you need to mention the words simple random sampling. There'll be a tick there for that. Mind you, there will be a tick for other things here as well. The question structure is absolutely important, that we start and we write out the question exactly like this, but of course you're changing the words according to, you don't change the word. You have to have the word median. Alright, you have to be able to compare the two groups, female kiwi birds to male kiwi birds, or whatever the two groups of things are that you're comparing. Alright, we must have the words greater than. We must have the years over here and where the data came from, and maybe the country that they came from. Alright, and then we've got here using simple random sampling. You get a tick for that as well. So all these things that I've talked about here, you'll get ticked off as to whether you have them or not. It's precisely, absolutely vital, the bare minimum. I collected how many? 30 of each. And then once again from where. Alright, and then you've got to paste in here your thing that you copied from New Zealand Grapher, and hopefully it has all these things. It should have on the left hand side a red area here. Have a look to see if you've got 30 of each. 30, or it could be 40 or 50 or whatever. Number down the bottom here, where I'm just pointing to here, my one says 30, and then 30 males as well. So just check. You needed a sample. You're not meant to take, you are not supposed to or not allowed to take the whole lot. You have to take a sample, a smaller group from the larger group of information that you were given. Not the whole lot. Sample of 30 of each, or maybe 50 of each, or whatever. 50 females, 50 males. And then that appears on the left hand side here in red if you selected the correct things in New Zealand Grapher. And you should have the box and whisker diagram. Your one might appear above the dots, it doesn't matter. It can be on the dots or above the dots. And you'll have dots there as well. You'll have your confidence interval, the blue area, and you'll have numbers specifying where the blue area starts, right here, and another number where the blue area finishes, right here. Alright, so next thing, so make sure you definitely have that, by the way. Absolutely vital to have everything that I've talked about there so far in both the question, the sampling method, and the graph. Absolutely every single point will be ticked off as something that you need, and if you don't have it, it basically means a fail unless we do a resub on it. Alright, next bit here. Shift the middle 50% of kiwi bird heights is shifted further to the right. So we will notice that This is the middle 50%. It's this box here, this black box, not the blue area, that's the confidence intervals, but the black box that's broken into, it's got a line in the middle there, as you can see, a black line in the middle, but the box over this whole area that I'm circling here, this whole box, is called the middle 50%. Okay, that's for the females. And then for the males, we've got another black box with a line in the middle, and that is also the middle 50%, but that's for the males. So the females is further ahead, it's further to the right. Alright? So what we're saying is that the middle 50% of a female bird's heights is shifted further to the right compared to the middle 50% of male kiwi bird heights. Now if they were right in the same place or approximately the same, you would say that. You would say that the boxes are in the same place. Alright, they are not, one is not shifted further ahead than the other. Alright, so you'd mention that. You'd also mention that there is a lot of overlap between them. If there was, now there's no overlap, we don't have any overlap in this graph, so we're not saying that. Alright, but if there is, you have to say it. Next bit, likewise, the median female height is much more than the median male bird's height in my data. So the median is this line here, this black line, and then this black line here for the males, and so the female, this line in the middle, black line, is further ahead, much more than for the males. Alright, next step, you're talking about overlap. There is no overlap between the middle 50% of heights for the female kiwi birds compared to the male kiwi birds. Alright, so there's no overlap. We're talking about those middle 50% areas there, they do not overlap at all. Alright. Now next thing that you should definitely absolutely have this. You must talk about whether, I talk about one median, the median of my sample of female kiwi birds, and that it's used to estimate the median of a population of kiwi birds. So you still got to mention the word population. It's absolutely vital to mention the word population in your assessment. Now you won't be talking about kiwi birds, you'll be talking about whatever you are talking about, the two things that you are comparing. Alright, so you can be comparing sharks, kiwi birds, games, anything, whatever, machines, anything, two different types of machines, whatever it is. Alright, so in this particular, so you must have a statement here. The median of my sample of female kiwi birds can be used to estimate the median, and then you've got to have something, and then population. You have to mention this, and it's the same for the males. Same for your other group. You need to mention that as well. Okay, so once again, don't leave a single thing out of this. It's the absolute minimum that is needed. The shape, both the female and male kiwi bird heights in my graphs are skewed to the right and clustered to the left. So what this means is everything's spread out across here to the right, and the clusters are to the left here. And down here we have skewed to the right as well. It means everything's spread out, and then there's clusters, meaning a whole lot of dots all bunched up together to the left, bunched up together. So the dots are very close together, and that means clustered to the left, spread out, so skewed to the right. Okay, so next bit that we absolutely need to have is to talk about taking more samples. So if you were to take, just copy this out, you just need to really make a statement very, very similar to this. If I were to take more samples of kiwi bird heights, okay, well you're not going to use kiwi bird heights, it's the only bit that would change. I'd get slightly different shaped graphs, but likely come to the same conclusion. If you were to take larger samples, you would come to a more confident conclusion. Alright, next bit, your conclusion here. In conclusion, I can make a very confident call that the female kiwi bird height in the population of kiwi birds, you must mention in the population. See, there's words here that you cannot go without. You must have in the population of its. In other words, you're referring to the larger group. All right, you're using your graph, basically your information here on just a small sample of each male and female in order to come to a conclusion about a larger group, a much larger population or group of kiwi birds. Or in your case, whatever you're doing, you're looking at a small sample of something else and coming to a much broader conclusion about everything in general, about those particular things that you're talking about in general, the millions of things or whatever you're talking about. Okay, so for example, when people do opinion polls on Labour and National, they'll only ask, say, 100 people whether they like National or Labour, and then they could come up with, say, 43% like Labour or whatever, but then whoever got that information, asked 100 people, has got to actually come to some kind of conclusion about the wider population of the millions of people who can actually vote. So then they can come to a conclusion based upon just their small sample of people that they asked. So their conclusion could be also that 43% of people like Labour or whatever it is, and it's going to be around about that. You can't say absolutely, be give or take. It could be, say, 40 to 46% of people like Labour. Alright, but it's going to give you an estimate of estimate of how many people like Labour. Based upon your graphs, you can make an estimate about the larger population of kiwi birds out there. And because our confidence intervals do not overlap, and our confidence intervals here, this blue area, does not overlap. The confidence intervals do not overlap. It's absolutely vital that you mention this. When the confidence intervals do not overlap, you can confidently say that one group, the median of one group and the larger population of that group, a larger population of female kiwi birds, the median height is going to be greater than the median height in the larger population of male kiwi birds, because the confidence intervals do not overlap. So if you don't understand that, just write this down here anyway. We've got, in conclusion, I can make a very confident call that the median female kiwi bird height in the population, must mention that, of kiwi birds is greater than the median male kiwi bird height in the population, because my confidence intervals in my samples do not overlap. Alright, so it's all to do with whether they overlap or not. So we can look at another one over here and just very briefly have a look. Notice that for the sharks, I mean, we've got a lot of overlap. We've got overlap of the middle 50%. So that's going to change what you write about in terms of the overlap over here. To begin with, your middle 50%, the black box area there actually overlaps a lot. And if you brought this up close here, it would be on top of the other one. So you brought this box down, it would be on top of the other box. A large portion of this box would be on top of this other box here if we brought it down. Okay, so that means there's a lot of overlap between the middle 50% for the female and male sharks. It's very different from what we saw here with the male and female kiwi birds. Alright, so there we're writing something different, that there's a considerable overlap between the middle 50%. And also notice that the confidence intervals here also overlap. So this is something separate from the middle 50%, but nevertheless in this graph they also overlap. So we have the blue area here, this confidence interval here for the females and for the males. If I brought that blue area right down without shifting it to left or right, brought it right down, it would be touching, part of it would be over the top of this other blue area here. So when that happens and there's overlap in the middle 50%, it changes your conclusion. So have a look at the conclusion at the end here. In conclusion, I cannot make a very confident call that the median male shark length in the population of sharks is greater than the female shark. Should be length there, by the way. It's a little bit of a typo there, shark. So I kept that there probably from the kiwi birds there. But anyway, shark length in the population, because my confidence intervals in my samples overlap. Alright, so notice that your conclusion is completely different. Completely different conclusion. If the confidence intervals overlap, then you cannot be sure of anything. You can't say the female population median is going to be higher than the male population median, and you can't say vice versa either, that the males will be male population median length is higher than the female population median length. You can't say either way. Alright, you can't come to any conclusion whatsoever, but you must state that you cannot come to a very confident or make a very confident call. You can't say or make any conclusion or really about it. You must say this. Just use these words here. Alright, I cannot make a very confident call that whatever you talk about comparing your two groups. You can't say that one median is higher than the other in the population, because my confidence intervals in my samples overlap. So it's just absolutely vital that you have that bare minimum there for achieved. And it's not really much. This is just one page of writing. It's not a lot of work here, not a lot of work. So that's all you need. This is only, so for kiwi birds, that's all you would need there. It's not much. If you just send that in, that would be great. Thanks.